fortunate. When I got here, I was informed that we as a district had been expressing interest to the MSBA for their program to support districts that have buildings in need of rebuild or repair. We had been applying for over 10 years and had basically been told, you have a need, but it doesn't rise to the top because it's a very, very competitive process. In the summer of 2016, they actually agreed that our need had risen to the top of the pile. The MSBA is a very competitive process, and to get their attention, and I don't know how to say this, to get their attention and for them to say, yes, you're a community in need of a new building amongst all the other communities in the state of Massachusetts, and this is not just high schools, it's schools K through 12. So they could be looking at elementary schools, middle schools, different variations. There are schools that have built K-12 configurations, 712s. So for the MSBA to say yes, of all those, you demonstrate to us a significant enough need and we want to partner with your community is a big, big deal. And if you then do not vote in the affirmative to move forward, there is a different way that you are looked at because the MSBA has invested a lot of time and a lot of effort into you. And now as a community you've said, we're not sure that we're actually as committed. And that is going to be looked at differently. We know we have neighbors in Berkshire County going through that right now. So it's not a matter of you vote it down, you say, oh, we'll just get back in line and they'll pick us up again. When I got here, they had been expressing interest for 10 years, like I said. And in the fall of my first year as superintendent, and they said to us, we'd like to come to a site visit. And I was all excited because I'd been through an accelerated repair program, I'd been through a renovation, but I was saying, oh, this is great. I hadn't been in a situation where they'd been applying for 10 years. Right. And a lot of people were kind of like, we don't know if it'll actually happen. We've been applying, at least now they're finally coming out to look. And when they came out and they looked, and a woman named Diane Kennedy, who runs the program at the MSBA, clearly was very supportive that we had a high level of need. Right. There were things that she was seeing that just are not up to compliance with current standards for educational programming, or have outlived their life span to be functional for a building. And she was really interested in us, and everybody got that vibe. So when they ultimately invited us into the program, it was a huge accomplishment, I think, for the district after multiple years of interest. So it didn't really, it was something started well before me, and in reality well before the previous superintendents, of saying, you know, raise our hand, look over here, we think we have a need. In the 10 years of applying, that need had only exacerbated, and will only exacerbate if we go forward without moving towards a new building now. That's an important thing I think people do need to recognize. For us, this is not vote in the affirmative now, or go back to MSBA because MSBA may not be available, or vote in the affirmative now or go back to status quo. This is a building that has immediate needs for repair that will need to be addressed. Okay,
and can you just, what are a couple things off the top of your head that you see around here that just are not working for kids?
Oh my, well, so there's kind of, and Aaron can talk a little bit more about it, and we can talk about some of the specifics in the mechanics of the building that are not working for kids. In 2019, our goal is to meet the needs of every kid every day. This was a building that was not built to meet the needs of every kid. So there are spaces that just don't exist for certain populations. If you need therapies, if you need physical therapy or speech therapy or occupational therapy, there really are not facilities for that. Right. If you need social emotional support and counseling, there are not confidential spaces. Those needs were not considered, and in some ways some of those students were not considered when this building was originally built. So we really want a building that says we can meet the needs of all kids, and we have a building that was not built to do so. And we also want to meet the needs of kids who have different learning styles and different interests, and our ability to do so in a very traditional industrial era building is limited.
Is there something you would want to say to somebody who is kind of on the fence about their vote?
I mean, I think that if people are on the fence about their vote, I've heard things said that we had people educated successfully in one-room schoolhouses. Yes, a certain type of learner. I have trouble expanding that to the population of students we are currently trying to educate, the population we are welcoming into our school, as far as community members who need access due to mobility issues, as far as students who need access due to different learning styles, and we really want to meet the needs of a very, very diverse student population, both in terms of their interests in, for example, the science, technology, engineering fields, but also in terms of their needs, like social, emotional, and special education. The other thing I'd really just want to remind people of is just we need to do something here. That has been clear since the day I arrived. It was clear far before then that this building has significant needs for repair, beyond even the needs to provide more opportunities educationally for a incredibly dedicated staff, a great group of kids who really deserve a building that can better meet their needs, and we're going to have to address that. So if there is not a yes vote in April, there is not the option to say, oh, okay, we'll just stick with status quo. Because I think what people need to remember is the reason we rose to the top of the list after 10 years is we have a really big need to do something. This is a great option, but if we don't take it, we're going to have to address these repairs through capital projects. In addition, if we don't take it, the MSBA will go away because they have a long list of other people who are looking forward to working with them. And I would want the community also to realize that the MSBA's money is money that we as taxpayers paid. So in some ways, I've heard it said by community members, this is kind of our turn to cash in on that. And they're right. This is the money, and why not us? It's our turn, our building has the need, and the Mass School Building Authority is coming to the table with more than a 50% reimbursement rate for Central Berkshire, based on our economic factors.
Okay, and with new schools to the south, the north, and the west, I mean, if you didn't get it, would you really feel Dalton would really be left behind, wouldn't they be?
It's significantly, and I think we'd also have to question what kind of decisions parents might make for their kids. And we have a great community where 7 towns have been invested for a long time in educating their kids, and we have students who are looking forward to an education at the secondary level who deserve a quality education for quite some time. So for a community this invested in the schools and in the kids, not to have a school that can bring them into the future, I think would have a pretty significant impact on everyone.
The Wacona Regional High School was built in 1961. The construction started about 2 years prior, and it was part of a much larger endeavor when Central Berkshire Regional School District was actually formed. It was formed with the intent to build a regional high school among the 7 towns of the district, Dalton being the biggest. At the time, the old Dalton High School was too small. They were running double sessions. It was a time when the first wave of the baby boomer kids were coming through, and they needed a larger, more modern space to educate students. Since that time, another population boom, thanks primarily to GE and other industries, happened in the 1970s, where they needed to add on 5 extra classrooms and 2 extra what are called portable or temporary classrooms, which we're still using today. So the population here has ebbed and flowed. There's been as many as 1,000, or if not a little bit more, students here, the peaking in the 1970s. And we're currently at one of our smaller populations of 530 students. The problem is that the population isn't really the issue. It's the needs of the students and the way in which we need to meet them that is the issue. The second overriding issue is the condition of the building. It is not due to poor or lack of maintenance. It's due to age and wear and tear. We have educated since 1961 tens of thousands of students. This building is used almost 7 days a week by the community, by athletic programs, the arts, fine and performing arts. So it's a busy, worn building.
When you come in every day, what are some of the things that you just see that don't work for the kids? I mean, is it the sprawling size of the school? Is it the lighting? I mean, I'm sure it's lots of things. Can you just name a few things that really work against you?
Well, one of the things that's definitely working against us is some of the what I call the guts of the building. We're continually having heating and cooling issues, which absolutely affects the kids. It affects the learning environment and so on and so forth. As we go through the winter heating season, you know, you always have in the back of your mind, is the primary boiler going to go down or not, and that sort of thing. You'll notice in some parts of the building that in the wintertime the windows will be closed, and other parts the windows will be open, just to create some sort of temperate situation. This was not an energy efficient building by any stretch of the imagination. We are leaking energy every single day. That's a real concern. As far as the impact on education, though, we are trying to offer students a 21st century education. And you know, educational experts talk about what's called the 4 C's of 21st century education, which is critical thinking, communication, creativity, and collaboration. And what we're finding in particular when it comes to the creativity piece and the collaboration piece is that we have learning spaces that really we have to find multiple ways to work around. We have a fantastic yoga program here that we have to offer that class in B lobby or on this very stage. This room that we're in, the auditorium, becomes a classroom. For that, it's a classroom for our chorus classes 2 days a week, so we have to shut this space down and other people can't use it so that we can accommodate those classes. I'm particularly concerned about the lack of privacy in this building and the fact that when students are receiving counseling or if there's meetings on students and that sort of thing, the walls are thin, the spaces in which they have the meetings are not conducive to doing things the right way. One of the last things that I think bothers me is in 1961 there was no such thing as special education. Anybody who had some sort of special need was sent somewhere else for school, and these schools only educated kids who were considered to be mainstream children. We educate everybody. Our educational approach is universally designed. This building is absolutely not. So when it comes to offering things like OT/PT services and just finding proper spaces to provide services, it's become a real challenge.
Okay, give me a flavor for some of the things that you know, for your average Dalton resident or Windsor resident who can't get in here for a tour. What are some of the things in here that you know you notice is very outdated? We talk about the auditorium, right? Like the lighting in here, right? It's like it's very yellow, and it's just it doesn't seem, you know, you can tell it's from the '60s.
Most people who visit Wahconah typically don't go beyond A and B lobby, the gym, and the auditorium, maybe the cafeteria. The auditorium is probably the biggest sore point with the public. We have made efforts through fundraising and so on and so forth to refurbish some of the seats, but the vast majority of them are original seats, tons of wear and tear. Our students respect the building. It has nothing to do with that. There's not graffiti issues or anything like that. It just has to do with heavy usage, old, outdated equipment. The stage I'm sitting on now, broken floorboards, those sorts of things, the sound, the lighting. We've used this auditorium heavily and to its greatest extent possible, but it's not ADA compliant. We have a lift that can get a student up on the stage, but it takes a long time. The lift is creaky. You want to be able to create a situation for particularly those people who are in wheelchairs or have disabilities to seamlessly transition onto the stage, to be able to just seamlessly come in and watch a show. We don't have a lighting or sound booth and that sort of thing. But most often when people come into Wahconah outside the auditorium, they don't see anything that's typically wrong. But once you start heading up the hallways or into the locker rooms or down into the boiler room, you start to see what's happened. You know, ceiling tiles that we can no longer get because they don't make them anymore, that are original to the building, that have been replaced with pieces of drop ceiling. Lots of leak marks that over the summertime we try to paint over and all that sort of stuff. Those are the sorts of things. Plumbing issues consistently. We have to shut the building down, water to the building down, in order to change a toilet. Those sorts of things and those workarounds have really gotten in the way of what we need to do here.
Okay. Give me a little outside tour. Parking lot. Parking lot's full of holes, right?
Yeah. The parking lot was built, I don't know the history of it, but it looks like an afterthought to an extent. I think for a while it was actually just a dirt parking lot, if I'm not mistaken. I could be wrong about that. But you know, we have since had to create handicap parking. It was not built to have visitor parking because people didn't really come to school much. There weren't meetings on students and team meetings and all that sort of stuff. So what we're hoping to do with the new building is to create a more suitable student parking area that's better situated and orientated to the building, and also staff and visitor parking, and also just more flexible parking spaces in general.
Okay. Can you give me a flavor for the new building? What are some of the things that would be different in the new building?
I'm excited about several different things with the new building, one of which is the auditorium. There's been a lot of concern about whether or not we would have a full-size auditorium or not. We will have a full-size auditorium of 550 seats. It'll be state-of-the-art. It will be set up the right way, and it will be the home to many, many, many concerts and performances, both student-driven, school-driven, and also community-based. It's going to be a great feature in the new building. And it's going to sit beautifully within it. Our fine and performing arts spaces are going to be finally up to code, so to speak. Band and chorus will have proper classroom spaces. There'll be an ensemble room. We'll be able to offer more students the opportunity to take music production. We'll have 2 art rooms instead of 1 because the demand is there for more than just 1 art room. I'm excited about the athletic gym PE spaces. Because we're now going to have more flexible spaces. We're going to have a much larger gym. Right now our gym is about 9,300 square feet. We're looking at about an 11,000 square foot gym. We're going to have additionally 3,000 square feet of spaces, about 1,500 square feet of weight room, and another 1,500 square feet of fitness room, so that we can teach things like yoga and personal wellness and lifetime fitness in the proper spaces, as opposed to the lobby, the stage, and the cafeteria. Another thing that I'm excited about in particular is our science classrooms. Right now we have 7 science teachers and we only have 1 lab. In this day and age, with all the effort that's gone into science, technology, and engineering, that is unheard of. People are shocked at how we are able to function with just 1 lab. So in the new design, there's going to be 5 classrooms that we'll schedule 7 teachers into that will have 5 labs built into the classrooms. They'll be about 1,400 to 1,500 square feet, and I think we'll finally be able to give our talented science teachers the proper academic venue to really not just teach their kids science, but also to help the kids do science, which is one of the big issues that we have right now. I'm excited about what's going to be called the Student Support Center that will be adjacent to the administrative offices. Right now, our school adjustment counselor, who's our point person for mental health in the school, she has an office that's just off of a hallway, and when students take a left to go into that office, other students tend to know what they're going in there for. In this particular case, we're going to have school adjustment counselor, school psychologist, guidance counselors, nurse, and assistant principal all in one area, certainly spread out for privacy purposes. But students will access that space, the Student Support Center, through one door. And nobody will know their business when they walk in, because they could be coming in because they don't feel well, they could be coming in because they have anxiety or depression, they could be coming in to work on a college application with a guidance counselor. And we really want to be able to create that space for our students. The other thing is we would have appropriate spaces for special needs services that would be integrated within the general education classroom pods. And the classroom pods themselves would be flexible enough that we're going to have project pull-out rooms, collaboration spaces. Our learning commons, which will be the new library, will be situated in the middle at the heart of the academic portion of the building. There will be a maker space. There will be a separate space for students taking virtual high school. So we're really excited about all the new features that we can, the new flexible and collaborative features. One of the things that we've tried to do within the confines of the current Wacona is still try to push as hard as we can to integrate as much technology into the students' learning experience as possible. So we have decent Wi-Fi coverage here, though sometimes we have issues from time to time, but our IT departments work very hard so that we can have the proper bandwidth for our students now. The design in the new building is forward thinking though. So you're going to design a building with the intent to be able to handle bandwidth that we're going to need in 10 to 15 years as opposed to right now in 2019. We currently have a one-to-one Chromebook initiative that we started this year with the students that will transfer over to the new school. But what we are going to be able to have are more appropriate spaces where technology will be embedded into it. A business classroom that will have that will essentially function also as a computer lab for you know, certain particular business classes and technology classes. You know, our tech ed areas for construction tech, principles of engineering, computer-aided drafting, 3D printing are all going to be up to code and up to state expectations as opposed to what we have right now. And what I'm really excited about is the flexible learning space and also the technology that's going to be incorporated into the learning commons. Athletically speaking, our school tends to be known for that, and that's a plus and a minus, because sometimes people think that's all we are, and that is absolutely not the case. But 65% of our students are student athletes. That means that they take part in one or more sport. We offer unified athletics here, which gives students with disabilities the opportunity to compete with students that don't have disabilities in varsity level sports. That program is 2 years old now. Every single student at Wahconah has the chance to take part in athletics here. So we have a very vibrant athletic program, and we're now going to finally have a facility that will be able to meet that need, gain an athletic field, a rectangular athletic field to accommodate, for instance, sports like soccer and lacrosse, which we're excited about as well. As far as the fine and performing arts go, we will finally have a stage in an auditorium that those students and their instructors deserve. We have one of the most successful drama programs around. We have a highly touted band. We have a talented chorus, but they're finally going to be able to perform in a space that's appropriate. And they won't have to work around all the different issues. I mean, our drama department will finally have a dressing room. I mean, they've never had one before, for example. The other thing I think to keep in mind is that our students have really gone with the flow in terms of the teachers pushing them to become more collaborative and creative. Our students are looking to kind of bust out a little bit academically, both creatively and collaboratively. So right now, when they break out for project-based work or collaborative or cooperative work, they have to do it in the hallways. They have to do it in an adjacent room if it's open and that sort of thing. And it's hard for teacher supervision. The new building will accommodate all of that. And visibility and teacher supervision, administrative supervision will have more of a flow to it than kind of the chopped up situation that we have at Wahconah right now. This school was built for one teacher to stand in front of one class for 50 minutes and lecture. And that's not how we teach anymore. And that's not how our students learn. So we're going to really be able to kind of unleash a great deal of collaboration and creativity with the new building. That I really feel that this building is holding us back. I talk about many of the workarounds that we have to do, quite frankly, on a daily basis. Today, our bell system isn't working. So somebody has to keep manually ringing the bell. We've had to do that for 2 days, for 48 hours, until we can get a company here to fix it. That's just one example. But I really think in this new building, it's going to push the boundaries of how we teach and how we learn and how we function. And I think it's going to be ultimately a real hallmark for the Central Berkshire community and a real proud moment when we open those doors.
Yeah. What sense are you getting from people? Are they excited?
It really depends. The excitement centers around who you talk to. I am currently a parent of 3 students in the school district, 2 of which go to this school now. My freshman daughter may get to be a senior at the new Wahconah, and my 6th grade son may get to be a freshman at the new Wahconah. Those families seem to be motivated and excited, though they're also typically not the folks who show up to vote. So there's been a lot of conversation with those families about, if you really want this, then you have to go cast your vote. We also have received feedback, particularly from those who are older or the senior citizen population, and we've heard some real stories about hardships and concerns over the impact that it will have on taxes. But one of the things that I've been trying to explain to people is that the education system in this state and this country, going all the way back to Horace Mann, was set up to pay it forward. And we, citizens, have been paying it forward for many, many years. And it's now time to pay it forward for another 60, 70 years. And that's what this new building will be. We love this old building. It doesn't need just a new roof and a paint job. It needs a complete overhaul, and the school building committee, after a great deal of deliberation and looking at 13 different options, from renovation addition to new construction, came to the realization that the best thing for this community is to build a brand new school right next door on the same property, so that we can go to school in peace here and seamlessly transition the students over there when the time comes.
Perfect. Yeah.
What I would say to voters who are on the fence, particularly about the notion of, and I get this a lot, you know, well, I learned a certain way back in the 1960s or 70s, how come it's not working today? The answer is very simple. Children are different today. The basic tenets of what children are like are the same. They still like to laugh and play and sometimes cry and sometimes have frustrations, but the reality is that children and families are different. Society is different. And we have to build a building that we can service their needs and meet their needs. This building served the baby boomer Generation X population and the way in which we were brought up. This new building is going to serve this generation we're in now and future generations that remain to be named. And we have to be able to build a flexible enough space to accommodate that. I have a firm belief that education in the next 15 years is going to change multiple times over, far more than it did in the last 100 years. And that's going to be driven by technology. It's also going to be driven by socioeconomics. And we have to be ready for that.